Well, hello and welcome, parents and families. We're super excited that you are here today. As you all are kind of slowly joining, I just want to give some quick reminders. As you all know, this is part of our Family U Chat series where we bring campus partners to answer the questions that you have about important topics on campus. And so today we're going to be talking about spring move in. And so we're really excited to get to make sure you have that information. As always, our webinars are recorded and will be available on our YouTube and on our website. And so we're super excited, and you can always use that to send to your students or to remember for yourself. It'll also be available on our Facebook. So today, I'm joined by Dawn Bond, who is going to talk to you all about move in and all of the important things, and also a little bit about move out. She's an expert in all of these things, and so I'm super excited to have her here today. And so, without further ado, here's Dawn.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I also have some of my team here behind the scenes. When Jonathan opens up the Q&A function after I finish presenting, they will answer your questions as you enter them, and we will also take questions. And so I think the presentation shouldn't take more than about 15 minutes. And so we are going to go ahead and share screen. So fall closing and spring opening. I was originally asked to talk about spring opening, and it is very different than fall move in. But the team and I talked about it. We think it's worth at least talking briefly about how we close for fall, because I have seen a number of questions come through on email and on Facebook about, does my student have to do this? Does my student have to do that? So let's get started with fall closing. So traditional halls that are not open for break periods will close at 10 a.m. on this Saturday, December 16th. Break housing halls that do not close during the break include North Apartments, Grayson, Cashin, Prince. And so students that are assigned to those residence halls have opted into what is called break housing, and students can stay continuously through all of the break periods. And then approved residents in Brett Hall, Gorman Hall, and James Hall can remain during breaks as long as they have contacted Residential Life Assignment Office to get approval before this Saturday. Fall closing, how to leave for your space for winter break. It is important that you pack wisely and that you do not forget items that may be important over your winter break. Some of the things that we have had students contact us after we close include important medications, electronics, charging cords, passports. I'm going to add one here because we've gotten it enough times. Swimsuits, because a trip happens to get planned late and you have your swimsuit here. And so think about all the things that you might be doing over winter break. We do have the option for students to request to come back and pick something up, but there is a fee associated with that. You would contact residential services at the phone number listed here and make an appointment. And depending on whether we're open for business or if it's off shift, there is a range of fees for that access to the residence halls. Please clean your room, meaning you do not have to unplug your refrigerator. You can leave that plugged in and running, but make sure that you dispose of perishable food items. You take out all trash and recyclables so they do not attract pests over the winter break. It is quite a long break, just over 6 weeks. And please make sure that your windows are closed securely and locked, and that your door is also locked. There will be room checks after you leave, and staff who discover a door unlocked will lock that door. So don't leave your door unlocked thinking that's the best way to keep your key safe over the winter breaks. You'll just leave your door unlocked and come back and find your key in your room. That's not how it works. And then please take your key and your U card home and store them in a safe space over the long break. All rooms will be inspected. Who needs to check out? A full checkout means that we are expected to remove all of your belongings from the space and return your key to the residential service desk before leaving campus. Most students do not fall into this category. The students who fall into this category are students who have canceled their housing for spring semester. There are students who have selected a new assignment for spring semester. They are students who have been pulled into a new assignment for spring, and students who have performed a swap. When will we open? We have a couple of move-in dates for spring semester. Tuesday, January 30th and Wednesday, January 31st are the 2 days that we are inviting students back to campus between 9 a.m. and 10 p.m. each day. If you would like to request an early arrival, there is a fee associated. Students that need an early arrival can come in Monday, January 29th between 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. The early arrival fee is $120. The early arrival request form will be available online Tuesday, January 2nd. Spring opening, different from fall move in, which is quite a 3-day production. And we bring students in who are moving in entirely, and we manage traffic flow. So we use a move in reservation. For spring opening, we do not require you to make a move in reservation. However, you must check in using Spire prior to your arrival. Please check the local weather and plan for heavy traffic on campus. Have your U card and key accessible. And this is for returning students, students who checked out completely. We will talk about in just a moment. But students who are returning to the same room should remember their U card and key. Drive directly to your hall to unload. If for any reason you have misplaced your key or cannot find your U card, please go to your residential service desk and they will issue a temporary key and a temporary card, and there will be a process explained to you where somebody from home has to priority mail your key and card back to the campus so that you can return your backup key. I believe it's within 48 hours, but we'll get to that slide. And moving bins will be available in halls with elevators each day until 7 p.m. in the lobbies. So spring opening, instructions for students who are checking in. So these are new students to our campus or students returning to a new room on campus. Before coming to campus, log into Spire and sign the key agreement. Upon arrival, go to your residential service desk to check in and get your room key. And after you've checked in, you will have 48 hours to complete what we call the room condition form. And that's an inventory of the furniture and status of your room. And you'll want to complete that within 48 hours. So, break housing students. If you are returning to the same room, you must check in online for spring semester and Inspire, select the housing tile, then move in and move out and self-service check-in. If you are returning to a non-break room, you must completely check out of your fall space by January 11th and then return starting on January 30th to check into your spring space at your new residential service desk. And if you are returning to a new break housing room, you must completely check out of your fall space by the 11th of January and then return starting on the 29th to check into your spring space at your new residential service desk. That tile there is for a very, very small number of students. And so for the audience listening, I'm going to ask you not to get lost in the weeds on that. That is accurate information and it only applies to students who are currently assigned to break housing and either are returning to their same room or changing rooms or changing rooms to a new break hall. We can take some questions about that when we get there. So for spring opening, for most students, the check-in instructions for students returning to their same room, which is about 90% of our students return to their same room. Before coming to campus, log into Spire and check in online by going to the housing tile, move in, move out, and then self-service check-in. This is where you're going to take your metal key and look on the back of it for the number there, and you will verify the key code, whether your key code is correct. You will need your room key for this so that you can enter that data into the Spire field. And then please do not forget your card and room key when you return. Upon arrival, go straight to your hall and move in. If you don't have your key, as I've already indicated, you will need to go to your service desk to sign out a backup key and a temporary card if you've also not brought your U card. This is a screenshot of the self-service check-in in Spire. This is how we know you're here and that you're coming and that you plan to live on campus for spring. So what if I can't return until February? Perhaps there's something that's going to delay you. The first day of classes, however, is February 1st. So if you are unable to arrive by 10 p.m. on Wednesday, January 31st, you should contact the Residential Life Assignments Office and request a late arrival status. Students arriving late who do not notify the Residential Life Assignment Office in advance may be reported as a no-show, and their room assignment may be canceled and fees will apply. This isn't a good one because we have experienced this in past years. What if there is a significant snowstorm coming through our area? The university works, environmental health and safety and emergency management works very closely with us during move in and move out periods, watching the weather. If we do deem it necessary to change our move in days and arrival times, we will post that on our website and we will notify students by way of email. And that is our last slide. So, what questions do we have today?
I just turned on the Q&A feature. Families, you can use that to type your questions. Some of them will read aloud, and then others of them you'll get a written answer. So feel free to use that Q&A feature so that we can answer your questions.
So
Okay,
that's a good
yeah.
question. So, parking enforcement will not be strict on the two move-in days. And so, yes, if you are parking for a very short period of time to help your student unload after they have been dropped off at the hall, you can park across the street in those lots. But different from fall move-in, we do expect that there will be heavy traffic, and there's already permitted um, parking people in those lots, and so that your stay should be short. If you are planning to stay longer, you should contact parking services for a day pass.
Right. So the next question says, are faculty available for questions over winter break? That's not exactly Dawn's area of expertise, but I'm sure she could take a stab at it.
I am going to say yes, email. And also, I believe that for the period of time from when we close the residence halls until probably after the new year, you will get a slow response.
I would agree. There are some holidays and some closures throughout that, so you will get limited answers, but they are available. Um, so is there self-checkout on December 15th?
Self checkout. So I'm going to take a stab at what that means. If your student is checking out because they are leaving their fall room for either reasons of cancellation or they're changing their room assignment for spring semester, they should complete a checkout at the residential service desk. If they are planning to leave at a time when the residential service desk is not open, perhaps there's a very early morning flight and they need to leave campus at 5 a.m. in the morning to get to the airport, then they should contact their residential service desk, and the residential service desk coordinator will arrange for a key envelope and access to the service desk by way of card access from the front door, and your student will drop their key before they leave campus if they are completely checking out of their room. If they're just leaving for an early morning flight but returning to the same room, they do not need to make those arrangements.
All right. So, John, a question I would have is if my student potentially leaves something in their room that they need access to, how would they
Mhm.
get that?
Yep. So our residential services office will be open normal business hours. So 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. each day. And one of my staff can chat me if I got those wrong in the chat. And if you call in during a business day and make an appointment to come to campus during business hours, there will be a less fee for that. If there's an urgent situation and it is New Year's Eve, which is falling on a Sunday this year, the service desk will not be open. You will have to come in through a different way, and there will be a higher fee. I believe that's a $150 fee. And so you should try your best to call during business hours and make an appointment during business hours in order to return to campus to pick up a forgotten item. And it does look like I got the hours right, and so yay for me.
All right. My next question would be, what if I haven't selected or requested break housing yet? Can I still do that? And where do I do that?
Hmm. That's equally tricky. So,
Well, no.
so, so the room change process for spring semester has already happened. And so if you or your student desired to live in break housing, they should have participated in the room selection process. If something has changed about their status since the room selection process, then they should contact the Residential Life Assignment Office at 413-545-2100, or the email address is living@umass.edu, to request at this time what options might be available for a student who needs break housing for the winter break.
Okay, great. Well, that is all the questions I have, and I think that's all the questions our families have. So, Don, if there was one thing you want people to remember from what you said today, what would that be?
Mhm. That this gets asked over and over on the Family to Family Facebook page, and so I'll reiterate it. Most students do not need to completely check out of their fall assignment. They do not need to take everything home for the break. They just need to take home what they believe they'll need for the winter break period. And remember to really do a full scan of those important items like medications, chargers for electronics, your passport. Sometimes students have their social security card here because they needed it for I-9 verification because they work on campus and maybe are looking for a job over winter break. That would be something that you would want your student to remember to bring home. Make sure that you secure your room properly. We do close and lock a lot of windows after students leave, and the RAs will be checking the room, but we really want students to take responsibility for readying their room for a 6-week departure, and remembering to take out trash and recycling. And the perishable food items, you'd be surprised how many students come back in, it'll be late January, and find a lot of yuck in their refrigerator because they haven't thought about cleaning that out properly before they leave.
Well,
Oh,
Don, uh,
I have one more. Actually, one of my staff said, and don't forget to check your mailbox,
there you
because there
go.
may be important mail in your physical mailbox that it is in your residence hall, or in Honors College, it's by the service desk. Using your mailbox combination, make sure you check your mailbox and pick up any packages that you have received an email about prior to departure. And somebody's asking if there's going to be a recording. The answer is yes. Um, and then someone has asked, if my son is in break housing but not staying, will someone be in his room? So his roommate will be in his room if he has a roommate or roommates, but we do not place temporary students in already occupied rooms for the break period. If they have any questions about that, they should contact the Residential Life Assignment Office.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us today. Don, thank you and your staff for being here and
Thank you.
answering questions. This recording will be available on our YouTube and on our Facebook page and on our website. And so if you need to reference what was said, you can find it in those locations. As always, thank you all for joining us and have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.